Welcome, everybody, to Travel Your Heart, a podcast where two gay grandpas explore life's travels together. Hi, everybody. It's Grandpa Bobby.
Grandpa Scott.
And welcome to another episode of Travel Your Heart, a podcast brought to you by two gay grandpas.
Which would be us.
That's us. So, Grandpa Scott, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to talk about some travel tips.
Oh, I know we've been getting a lot of requests from our listeners about tips and ideas that we've had based on our many years of travel. So we thought So we thought we'd compile just a few of our top tips.
Yeah.
So why don't you lead us off, Grandpa?
Well, I guess the first tip is to pick where you're going to go.
That's kind of obvious.
Start at the beginning. It's a wonderful place to start.
Let's start. Why are we always starting with songs?
I don't know, because we're two gay men who love Broadway.
Well, it's important to think about, where you want to go in terms of, am I going locally? Am I going out of the country? Where is your heart desire? Where do you want to travel your heart? So the second thing would be, how much time can you spend? Yeah. Because, if you're traveling out of the country, you need to allow time to be there, but also time to travel to and from. Yeah. You have to take into account time changes, etc. Yeah. But also you need to take into consideration the commitments you have for both your work and your family. Now, I know that when I used to work for a company and Grandpa and I would like to travel for, say, 3-4 weeks at a time, I would have to apply very early for the time off and make sure I could get those dates.
Yeah, and another very important thing is be aware of family birthdays.
Oh, boy.
Especially if they're your grandkids'
Especially
birthday.
if they're one of the months that you like to travel.
Yeah.
What Grandpa's referring to is we have two grandkids who have their birthdays in September, which is one of our favorite months to travel. And I remember one year we had to bribe one of our granddaughters with a trip to Disneyland so that we could go without having too much guilt.
Oh, boy, were we beating our chest. Mea culpa, mea culpa.
Yeah, that cost us.
And she had to let us live that one down.
Exactly, to this day. So another thing is, do a quick budget check before you get into all the planning. See if where you're going is affordable for your budget. Check out basic airline costs, hotels, places where you're thinking of going. Not a full budget, but just to see if you can afford that.
Can you afford abroad, or is your budget set for a wonderful local adventure?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's another tip, Grandpa?
Well, it kind of ties into that. Your research. Use the research venues that are available to you. The internet is a great place to begin. YouTube, wonderful travel YouTube channels like, I think I know one.
I know one too.
Two Gay Grandpas Travel. Yeah.
Multiple resources.
There's books.
Yeah. In fact, when we were traveling in the very dark ages of travel, way back in the 1980s, we only had books. So we would, fortunately, our family would give us, book cards to different bookstores, and we could use those to buy travel books, and we still do to this day, and maps. Sometimes just having a map in front of you helps you to understand where you want to go and what's close to one another.
Yeah, and that ties in a lot with planning for, okay, I only have 2 weeks, I can do this amount of time. Or I have 6 weeks, I can expand my time a little bit, which kind of goes into something else,
The
Grandpa.
next part is planning out a detailed itinerary.
Yeah.
Grandpa Scott and I used to have a board. We'd pin up all the different items we'd want to see, and then we'd usually have to reduce it to try to fit the days.
Sadly.
But the important thing we learned is to plan in time for relaxation. Yeah. I'll never forget our very first trip to Italy.
I won't either.
As an architect, I wanted to see every single church or monument listed, and after 3 days of nonstop go. Grandpa took me aside and said, look, if we don't plan some time for, what's your phrase?
Cafe society.
Just sitting back and sitting in a piazza with a Campari and soda, there would be hell to pay. So we have learned, always plan a little vacation from your vacation. Give yourself some time to relax. You're on vacation after all, so it should be enjoyable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What next, Grandpa?
Well, you plan that. I think it really goes into then the documentation you need. One, if you're going to travel abroad, you need a passport.
That's right.
Number one, and that can take a while to get if you don't have
Even
one.
to Canada and Mexico.
Absolutely.
I used to live on the border of Canada, and to me, the idea of having a passport was totally strange, but it is required.
Absolutely. And now I know that in the European Union, they're going to start requiring next year.
In 2025, they're going to require
a visa.
Yeah.
And some countries will require, some won't. So you want to go online and check.
Yep. And also, if you're driving, you may or may not need an international driver's license. So once again, investigate that.
And AAA is a great place to get those.
Yeah. And one thing that we do is we signed up for the TSA pre-check.
Yeah.
Now, this is an extra cost, so obviously if you can afford it, but it goes for several years. And you know what? It really helps us speed through an airport, not have to take off your belt, your shoes. Just one thing to make traveling a little easier.
Yeah, not having to take a whole lot of stuff out of your luggage.
Yeah.
And repack after you've packed.
So another item is to then make your reservations. Now, years ago, Grandpa and I would make the most basic of reservations or make them at the last minute. But, things have really changed since the pandemic. People are traveling so much more. So we find it's really important, specifically for the things you want to see that are very special to you and for your air flights, you really need to make your reservations as early as possible.
Yeah, it used to be that you could actually wait and maybe find some last minute deals, but that's not happening as much as it used to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about the next one?
Well, that would be...
Number 8.
Number 8. Oh, this is a good one, I think.
Well, that's why I gave it to you.
Thank you. Have a good travel card. And by that, I mean, we, a long time ago, investigated credit cards and debit cards, and we connected with a debit card that had no international fees when you use the ATMs. And that can add up to a lot of money when you're using it. So investigate a credit card or a debit card that has no international fee charges. And what we do, we decided on one that was a debit card that's tied into a savings account. And then every month, we would transfer some money onto that and build up our travel fund so that we weren't hit, we're leaving in 2 weeks, we got to come up with all this money.
Right.
It really helped us plan.
Yeah, and it's fun to build up your little travel fund, and then we load up that card and spend it just like using an ATM as we go, but there are no fees.
The really, really good thing to do.
As well, you might also want to check into your phone plan. Now, we're fortunate we have a phone plan that doesn't charge us roaming rates when we're abroad. And we found from experience when we didn't have that, when we were trying to do, say, business overseas, you could rack up hundreds of dollars in fees that you weren't intending.
Yep.
Okay, go on to the next one. You do the next.
One of my favorite things to talk about, pack lightly, folks. When we travel, for the most part, we travel with 2 check-in pieces of luggage and 2 backpacks, and our check-in luggage, when we carry on, is actually the European size.
We've learned.
Yeah, because when we first did it, we didn't have that. And we found that the check-in size for a lot of European airlines, especially the
Smaller regional.
economic ones,
Right.
When they slip it in that little thing to test the size, your American size carry-on didn't fit, and you had to check it and you had to pay a fee. So we went with the European size, and we haven't had too many problems. And also, we didn't have any lost luggage because it's with us.
But now that really applies to warm weather locations. Yeah. And if you aren't bringing heavy coats or hiking boots, that works. If you are going to those places or at different times of the year, try packing a normal size suitcase that has to be checked, not a steamer trunk, and then bring a backpack on board. Always bring some sort of carry-on if you have meds and special things or expensive items.
New underwear.
Clean underwear. That's always good in case your luggage does get lost.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And let me tell you, you're going to have more luggage when you get into content creating.
Yeah, you tend to have a lot
The
more stuff to
cameras,
schlep.
speakers, we had no idea.
But let's be real. Nobody comes back from vacation and says, I wish I brought more luggage. But before you go, one thing that's very important is make a copy of every single credit card, health insurance card, license
Driver's
on
license,
both sides.
Passport.
And either take them with you separately in your luggage or leave them with a family member or friend that you trust.
An attorney. If you're with your
In case
attorney.
you lose them, then you can contact or get that information right out of your luggage, and it saves a lot of hassles.
Yeah, because we did have a problem a while back with a lost credit cards, which we did get back, but we had to call credit card companies to stop anybody being able to use
and
it.
that's an important thing to do.
Besides to have those 800
Oh, and also
numbers.
your passwords for your different accounts. God knows, Grandpa Scott and I have so many passwords, it's impossible to remember. I can't remember our birthdays, let alone all those passwords. So.
Yeah. And because we do a lot, we have to have very secure passwords, not your birthday, not your kid's birthday. I mean, we have a gobbledygook of passwords with mixed up all kinds of
so
things.
document those.
Encrypted, all this kind of stuff. And our son-in-law, who works in IT, he suggested that we do to one of these cloud storage. I've always been uncomfortable with that.
Yeah,
thinking,
we're investigating. Let us know your comments about what you
Yeah.
think about putting your passwords on a cloud.
Yeah.
We're a little old school, so it will take a little while to convince us.
I think our son-in-law is going to work on that for us.
Yeah.
He says, it's crazy. You got so many of them. All right?
Okay, so the next one you get to talk about travel
travel
insurance.
If you're going abroad, get travel insurance, especially if you're older like we are and you're on Medicare, because Medicare doesn't help you when you're abroad.
Well, a lot of insurance companies, health insurance, may not transfer to the country where you're going.
Yeah.
So, we had originally got it just because at the one time there were airline strikes, et cetera, and we wanted it to just ensure that if our airline got canceled,
The
we
trip
can get
got
reimbursed.
canceled.
But it came in handy.
Handy, because it was Germany.
Yep.
All
I'm
right.
remembering.
And we were on the Rhine.
Yep.
And I got sick in Heidelberg and ended up in a hospital for 3 days.
Oh, what fun.
Yes, but what was good is that 3-day hospital stay, because of that travel insurance that we had, only cost us, it was $50.
$50, yeah. And we didn't even know that the health benefits were included with it. So once he was admitted to the hospital, I ran back to the hotel and brought the policy. And that, remember, bring the documentation with you.
Yeah.
And I brought it to the hospital and they said, oh, yeah, it's covered. So we were
Bless their
very
hearts,
fortunate.
that was, I had great medical care for $50.
Yep, and so never travel without that. Another item tying into that is if you are on medications, make sure you bring your medications in their original bottle with the prescription. If you show up with a bottle of pills, 9 times out of 10, you'll have them taken from you. And also make sure you have enough for the length of your stay. You don't want to be running out of your medications while you're away.
And also, if you're like me and you do carry a lot of medications, sometimes it's easier to just put them in those little travel packs. And what I did is I asked the doctor for just a general write-up of all the prescriptions I take and their numbers, and then you take that sheet with you, and for any security issues.
Yeah, better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
But conversely, don't overpack the things you can easily buy in the place that you're going to stay. Everybody has toothpaste of some sort. And
Shampoo.
Shampoo, exactly. You don't, unless you have some specific need. It's kind of fun to go to a store in another country or even city and find out what they use and investigate. And you discover interesting things like, did you know you can't buy aspirin? You have to buy it over the counter.
In a pharmacy.
In a pharmacy. And so you learn things, but don't overpack those items. You can buy them there.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with laundry. Another reason, going back to overpacking, every country has laundromats, believe it or not. And, I remember one afternoon we spent in Paris doing our laundry in a laundromat, and you just get to meet locals,
Local
and it's
people.
kind of fun.
And you can get some great tips on where to eat.
So we need to talk about what you do to plan what you do, how you get around once you are in the place you're going to.
Yeah, okay. when you go to a place, and let's say your budget is for 2 weeks, and you say, I can see maybe 3 major cities. And hypothetically, let's say you're going to Italy, because that tends to be a number one spot for a lot of travelers
That's
on
where
their
we started.
their first abroad trip. So, and typically they go to Rome, Florence, and Venice.
The classics.
Right? All of those cities that you go to, you can get around if you're staying multiple days. Nice walks. Mm-hmm. They have the rail service. They have taxis. There's lots of ways to get around, so you want to explore how you're going to get around.
But if you're going to walk, make sure you bring the proper footwear. I know your heels might be in style, but really good footwear, particularly because a lot of these places have cobblestone streets.
Yes, and the last thing you want to do is be breaking in a brand new pair of shoes on cobblestone.
Exactly. So talk about trains. You mentioned that.
Oh, trains are a wonderful way to get around in countries that have, unlike America, that have really good rail transportation. And, they have various prices on tickets. You have the Rail Pass. We did that for a while.
Yes,
but then
we did.
just started to buy our own tickets, and we typically would buy second-class tickets.
Yeah, sometimes these passes have you only in first class. And it's great to mingle with real people. And especially if you're only traveling like 3 hours, being on a second class train is totally wonderful. You get to really mingle with people, and you get to travel and speak the language and practice your skills. We always recommend that you try to learn a few phrases before you go, just to be polite and introduce yourself, and exchanging conversations with people on a train is a great way to practice.
Yes, and now you can get all those online apps that you can sit down and say, okay, this is how I want to say hello.
Yeah, and for those little remember we used to have those little tiny little translation books, and we'd be like looking up, how do I say?
But now you don't have to do
don't
it.
do that anymore.
You got all of the little online translators. The other great thing about it, when you're in second class, is when you're talking to people, and perhaps they know the area. They can share with you, hey, you want to eat here. This is where the locals go.
Yeah.
Or, okay, these are the tourist sites, but here are like 2 of my favorite places. They're not crowded, and they're beautiful. And we have discovered some wonderful
Don't be afraid to be
adventures that
friendly.
way.
Yeah. And if you're traveling between countries, investigate planes. Especially, we found when we were traveling in Europe, it was actually cheaper and faster to travel by plane than it was to travel by train.
Yeah.
So you never know with these budget airlines.
Do your research.
Yep.
Okay.
So where can we save money?
Okay, where can we save money? Well, on eating.
And how?
Well, if you are booking an Airbnb or a B&B or any kind of small 1, 2, 3-star hotel, which we used to do, we still do, see if they have the breakfast included. Usually it's continental. It's like some breakfast rolls, some cheese, maybe some cold cuts,
Well, but remember
yogurt.
But remember, in England, the first time we stayed in London, and they offered, we were at a cute little B&B in the Kensington area, and they had that full English, and you're going, oh my God, bacon, pork and beans for breakfast.
Yeah, it was a surprise for us,
But breakfast can cost a lot of money. It's surprising how it can add up, and you can take time away from your day. So if you have the opportunity to have breakfast in the place you're staying, it saves you time and money.
And then picnic for lunch. Yeah. We've done that so many times. You get a loaf of bread because, most countries over there have incredible bread.
And cheese.
Maybe some cold cuts.
Oh, salamis.
And you just
I'm
go
getting
find
hungry.
I know, I want to travel
Bottle
so
of wine.
bad. Well, not if you're driving.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you're not, you go to the park, and if the park will allow the alcohol, you sit and you have a wonderful picnic for your lunch.
And just enjoy the scenery.
And then at dinner,
or you could do a quick pizza. Like in some countries, like Italy, for €9 you can get a pizza to serve both of you.
One of the best pizzas we ever had was at a rail station.
Yeah, in Florence, I think it was.
No, on our way to Venice.
Yeah.
On our way to Venice. No, Vernazza.
Yeah.
When we're going to the Cinque Terre. Boom. Great piece of pizza. Okay.
But then splurge on dinners.
Splurge on dinner.
Dinner can be such a wonderful experience because Europeans tend to take, and this is other countries as well, not just in Europe, take time to dine. And that's where you get to really savor the local cuisine. So whereas your breakfast and lunch, you might go a little quicker, take time for dinner.
Oh yeah, it's romantic.
Yeah.
Isn't it romantic?
Here we go, singing again.
I know.
Anyway, our final recommendation is not to save money, but to splurge. And where you need to splurge is on seeing things. Sometimes you go to a palace or a museum and you look at the entry fee. Maybe you see it online and you go, "Ooh, that's a little steep, isn't it?" But you know what? If you're how many times are you going to ride the London Eye? Or how many times are you going to go to the Colosseum?
The Louvre.
The Louvre, yeah. Well, 3 times. But that's where you should spend the money, because these are life experiences. I remember the one time we went to Carcassonne, which is the famous walled city in the south of France. They have one hotel inside the city.
It's okay.
It was so very it's a 5-star hotel. But we wanted the experience of staying in the city, especially after dark, and walking around the city walls and the towers at night. So we justified it that it was a sightseeing thing. And it was probably the most expensive hotel room we've ever had.
Who are you kidding? You wanted to wear the robe and those sandals.
I do like the robes.
Emblazoned with the logos.
Yeah, that is kind of...
This one.
I do like the splurge. So definitely splurge on that. So, those are our tips. If you have other tips you'd like to share, please let us know. We would enjoy hearing your...
Yeah, if you've been to a place we haven't, and a lot of people have, we'd love to know, because we are expanding our travel adventures to South America, Asia,
Exactly.
Australia, New Zealand.
And there's always more to learn.
Absolutely.
So how do you think we did on this video, Graham?
Yeah, I think we did very well for our third, and who'll tell us and let us know how we did?
Who?
The folks out there.
Yeah, all of our adopteds out there.
You'll let us know how we did.
Yeah.
Again, we want these to be interesting and fun for you, which kind of leads, if you don't mind, into our next
what's our next episode?
The next episode, we want you all to send questions to us. What would you like to know about 2 gay grandpas?
What are we willing to reveal?
Yes, what will we reveal?
All shall be revealed. Yeah, so if you have questions or things you'd like to know about us or ask our opinion or advice on, just shoot us an email. Where can they send the email to? 2gaygrandpastravel@gmail.com, or you can put a note in the our podcast, or you can go to Instagram and put it in Instagram. Note in a bottle?
Note in a bottle. I've never got a note in a bottle. We're in Arizona, for heck's sake. How are we going to get a note in a bottle? But if anyone out there tries and is successful,
we'll let you know.
We'll let you know.
And, if you have enjoyed these travel tips, you might be interested in hearing more and seeing more of our travel adventures on our YouTube channel, 2 Gay Grandpas Travel. If you'd like them, we would really appreciate it if you'd subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell so you can be aware of our forthcoming adventures. And we would appreciate it if you tell your friends about this podcast and get them to subscribe too. We really enjoy bringing everybody on board.
Yeah, we really do appreciate all your support and encouragement. Please know that.
So thank you for spending some time with us. Yeah. And always remember, as we always say, whenever you travel your heart. Thanks, folks.
Bye, everybody.